All right, hello everyone, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope everyone at home has had a fantastic Saturday so far. I want to be the first to welcome you guys to the 360 Style panel. Today we are going to be talking about the interplay of hair, makeup, and wardrobe. So we are going to be talking about basically how glam and wardrobe all come together to create a fabulous look. And I think this is the perfect time for this discussion because, believe it or not, well, thank God, actually, 2020 is almost over, and we're going to be going into award season soon. Even though it's going to probably be looking a little bit different than it has in years past, considering that virtual red carpets are now a thing, which I never thought I'd see in my lifetime, but here we are. So before we get started, just want to lay down some ground rules for our wonderful audience tuning in today. So if you have any questions, comments, and God forbid, any tech support issues, feel free to leave those in the chat. We are going to begin with the question portion. Somebody's dog already has something to say. Fantastic. So we're going to be getting to the Q&A portion after our discussion. So feel free to leave them in as we're chatting, but we'll get to them in the end of the discussion. And also keep in mind that this session is going to be recorded. So if you have a moment that you want to rewatch again, you will be able to do so. And also, as you're watching, make sure to follow us at Glam Hive and engage with us on social media, whether you're live tweeting or putting something up on Instagram using the hashtag GlamHiveLive. Now, the last thing before we get started, we want to say thank you to our presenting sponsor, Mary Kay. For more than 56 years, Mary Kay has been a leading advocate for women's empowerment and entrepreneurship around the world. All right, guys, so now I'm going to be introducing our wonderful panelists. We have two makeup artists and two amazing hairstylists here. First up, we have the wonderful, talented Daniel Martin. He is Meghan Markle's go-to, and he has also worked with Jessica Alba and Priyanka Chopra. His work has also been featured in interviews, Vanity Fair, and Harper's Bazaar. Next up, we have Colleen Renee, another makeup artist who is fantastic. Her work has been featured in Elle, Glamour, and Allure, and she's also worked with superstars like Drew Barrymore, Liv Tyler, and Whoopi Goldberg. Next up, we have Laura Polka, who is a hairstylist. She has worked with the Hadid sisters, Chrissy Teigen, Emma Roberts, very casual. She's also worked on major campaigns and commercials with Nike, Reebok, and Under Armour. And last but certainly not least, we have the fantastic Sheridan Ward, who is an amazing hairstylist. He has worked with Nicole Kidman, Michelle Williams, and Elizabeth Moss, to name a few. He has also worked with major brands like Tom Ford, Chanel, and Gucci. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi.
Thank you.
All right, so Daniel, first, I want to start off with you. So as I mentioned kind of in the intro, we are coming up on award season, and so much of the glam and the hair and the makeup is dictated by the fashion, the look. So can you kind of walk us through the process of collaborating with wardrobe on creating the beauty look in terms of makeup, and how the fashion choices of your informs working with people?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very interesting time because just from what I've seen already and what I've dealt with, we're really working with a very structural box right now. No one's looking at shoes, no one's looking at full length. And what's been interesting is what you build around that moment now, where you can really utilize social media. So I think it was like, I saw like during Emmys, Regina King had a couple of different outfits and kind of built a story through social around her look. And I think that's going to be a really interesting way to kind of see the whole package being presented in this new way, because we usually have social media or the actual awards show to see that spectacle, but now you can actually kind of create and build the narrative around that. But yeah, it's always going to be about the dress and building around that dress, but definitely working within the parameters of this new world.
Absolutely. And so Laura, the next question I have for you, so when you add hair into the mix, how do things kind of differ when you're doing maybe an ad campaign or an editorial shoot versus when you're on the red carpet?
Well, it's also, I feel like with ad campaigns, there's usually a very specific mood board. There's not a lot of say one way or the other. They're like, we want this ponytail exactly like this. You're like, okay, then that's the ponytail you shall get. But then, you know, on editorials, there can be much more freedom, or also sometimes the same type of thing. But that's nice to be able to collaborate. And, you know, a lot of it, of course, is based off styling and that kind of direction in the mood and the general mood board. But then for red carpet, every client is very different. So some clients show up and they're like, I like my hair like this. I'm open, I'm not. And I think makeup, you can sometimes get people to sway a bit more. You can say like, what do you think about an eye like this? And people be like, okay, cool, I like that idea. Whereas if I say, let's slick your hair back, and they're like, oh no, not for me. You know, it's like really changing something a lot. And it's not just like, okay, you don't like the lip, we'll take it off. It actually needs a lot more thought, but it has to flow with everything else. And it has to really fit the person. I feel like, especially for anyone that understands how other people feel about their look, you know, girls know what it's like when somebody changes their look, even if that's just a bad haircut. You don't want anyone leaving feeling that way, especially when they have to walk out by themselves, super dressed up. I mean, maybe that means now just over to your living room on your Zoom, but that's okay. But you want to make sure that they feel amazing. And I think that's the most important thing, is to be able to listen to your client and to the whole team, because it's a team effort.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Colleen, you know, you're an industry expert. And just like with clothing in the beauty industry, we see things kind of come and go all the time. We see makeup changing, we see application techniques changing. So how do you differentiate when you see something new, you see a new trend coming into the beauty space? How do you differentiate between what's actually going to remain a trend and what is going to kind of be turned, and, you know, what's going to be turned into like a classic timeless style and something that will kind of be around forever and kind of make that statement?
Well, I always like to say I kind of do it from runway to realness, because like Laura was saying, it's like when you work with different clients, some clients are just set to having one particular look and you can kind of sway them. For me, I tend to like to get the newer products that are like, you know, seasonal, and then introduce them. And then also, I mean, it's just for me, when I work, I like to make it very specific to that person and then introduce them. Let's try a lip or whatever. But it is, you know, when you're doing red carpet, it is a little more challenging because you're dealing with people who have personalities. I worked with one person and she was like, I do not want anything shimmery. I want all matte on my eyes. And, you know, even when you show the most beautiful palette, you can't, there's only so much leeway. What I like to do is, I'm known for my face charts. I do sketches. So if I have time, and when I talk to the stylist and, you know, they say, this is what we're going to do, I do sketches, like all these sketches in the back, and then I'll do something like this and I'll bring it to them and say, this is what I'm thinking. And I draw the likeness of the client, and they really like that because that gives them a visual of what the makeup is going to look like and what I'm going to do.
I love that. I think that's such a good idea, alternative thing to do. And it just people know exactly what they're getting into with that.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about makeup evolution and styles and trends, Sheridan, I want to ask you about, you know, how hair looks have evolved over the years, and, you know, what kind of story do you think hair is telling in 2020, especially because hair is now such an important part of people's personal brands?
I think 2020 is a really bad example for any kind of trends. No offense, it's a bit of a dead year for everything. Most people, like myself included, not been washing their hair for weeks or months. There's a lot of like bed hair going on. I feel like the biggest thing that I've seen that was really impressed me is how creative people have got with hair at home. I guess you haven't really had much of a reason to get dressed up for anything, but as slowly the industry is starting to open back up, I've really enjoyed seeing people getting very creative, and myself included. I have to say I've done a lot of Zoom editorials and Zoom press days where I'm basically going one-on-one on camera with the talent and having to walk and talk them through how to achieve the look, which is challenging. But I have to say I love the technical side, and it takes a lot of patience. But I have to say 9 times out of 10, it really, really works. And the thing I was on the chat with Colleen earlier, and the thing I discovered the most, which has most excited me, is something that even I hadn't done a lot of, which is a lot of wet setting. And I feel like that's something that's become really useful, where literally I'm on a video chat with the actor or actress the night before, or especially actresses, and basically teach them how to wet set their hair. They sleep on the look, and it's often involving bathrobe ties or napkins attached into the hair, and the hair basically wrapped over with conditioner or serum, and they wake up and they let it out and a little texture spray later. And I have to say the results are great, and it's I feel like even for the actors I've worked with, they're even blown away of how amazing the results they can get from a little more than 10 minutes work at home before bed. I mean, it's so that for me is really kind of blown my mind a little bit. And I feel like that's the trend. If I was to say my favorite trend, or just for me in particular, is wet setting, how popular it's kind of become because there's no other option. And also for me, it's given me a whole new skill. And I was like, oh, I know about it, but not really done much of it. And I was thinking, this is great. They must have done this back in the 30s and 40s, and it had been completely normal. And we kind of forgotten about it and got into salon and having people do it. And now it's like, well, actually, you're at home now by yourself. And you don't have the skill, and you don't want to burn yourself with a tongue. So wet setting is a winner for me.
And I love just the innovation of it all. Like, who would think to use like a napkin to wrap your head?
Kitchen roll, napkin, bathrobe tie, right. Whatever you got to hand, it all works.
But we have to get creative, and we have to be innovative in a year like 2020 when we can't, go to the salon and make things work like how we used to.
No.
And even the same for Fashion Week, right? Because that has completely shifted this year. And so I'd love to get everyone's input on this one. So, obviously all of you guys have worked at Fashion Weeks. So can you tell us, I guess, a bit just generally about the role that hair and makeup plays in telling this story on the runway, and how that's kind of evolved and how it continues to evolve even when we have years like 2020 when things have completely kind of shifted. So I think, Colleen, we can go first, and then Laura, Daniel, and then Sheridan.
Well, all the shows that I always keyed, and it was always based on the designer's vision and the stylist, and they come together and they show you the tears. For me, it's just, you when you collaborate in that fashion, you zero in on maybe one little element that's going to become a focus, because that usually becomes the statement on the runway, right? So, I mean, even when you're doing no makeup, it could be a little gloss on the lid or making the skin really beautiful because you want it to have impact. Over the years, I mean, especially some of the shows that I keyed, it started to dial down where it was just no makeup, but there were times where it was just about making the skin really luminous and like hyper dewy, or I loved it. I mean, one of my favorite trims, obviously it's not something everybody can wear, was the popsicle lip, or like the one that was a little bit diffused over the thing, but over your lip, where it looked like it bled, but it still was deliberate. Those are things you can do where you can, I was working with a client the other day where I was using a soft fluffy brush and kind of diffusing the lip rather than giving it a hard line, because that's some of the things that you can interpret it and bring that onto a real person from the runway. Like, it was even a line, one show I had to do, they actually changed it the morning of. They didn't even bother to tell me when I got on location. They're like, so we decided to change it and we need to do 9 tattoos on 9 models. I had to execute them all myself because I was the only one. They wanted the same color as the baby blue that you have on the eyes. And I literally had to do all 9 models by myself. So yeah, anyway.
But you did it. You're the pro. You know what you
I did it. I did it. My assistants were looking at me like, oh my gosh. I'm just like, just keep me focused. Let me get this done.
Laura, what's your take on this?
Yeah.
Well, I'm following Colleen is hard because she's obviously done so many shows. I more just do people that go to shows to
yeah.
But it is always interesting because you kind of get the idea of what they're doing, and then you match like the vibe. Like, so if someone's going to something like Michael Kors, to keep it classic and simple and just straightforward. But then there's other brands where you could get much more creative. So it all depends. But yeah, and every show that I've ever worked on under people has always been the best opportunity to learn so many looks, especially when I was assisting and people weren't so minimal and you actually did hair, because now, like Colleen was saying, it's like, okay, no makeup, okay, a wet look, okay, just kind of like a little bend, okay, you know, which is all important stuff to learn, like how to do a casual bend actually surprisingly can be tough for a lot of people. So it's nice to learn those things. But back then, however long ago it was, over 10 years ago, when people would actually do looks, it was so fun to be in there and watch other people's creatively work together and creatively do things, and how each person you were assisting who was keying it operated so differently. Like what she was saying about her assistants saying, whoa, how are you doing this? You know, and you get to go and watch like 3 people a day operate like that. And then you get to learn so much and then take it back and incorporate it into your day-to-day career.
Absolutely. Daniel.
Yeah, the collaboration is always amazing for me because you really get the essence of the collection. So I know for this season in particular, like in September, a lot of the brands were creating and transferring that narrative into motion, and being able to execute that vision was really awesome because you really get to the nitty-gritty of the base of that total inspirational moment, whereas you touch on it backstage and then you kind of watch it on the runway, but then it's 20 minutes and it's done. Whereas this, you're really getting to build the story, and so much of it comes together once it's done. So I feel like because of the pandemic, it's going to change the way that we see fashion. It's already changing the way that we wear clothes, and it's already affecting the way that we wear makeup. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens moving forward.
Absolutely.
I agree, yeah.
Sheridan?
What Daniel said. And Colleen and Laura. No, just all I wanted to say was I find with runway, it's I feel like that's where the trends really start. And I find that it's often tricky because obviously you see looks, or especially hair or makeup looks, can be very extreme on 16-year-old models, and that often won't translate to a 45-year-old actress. So for me, it's always about taking elements of what you see on the runway and combining that in with something that's more wearable. I find that's always the best way to go in, because obviously for a talent or for an actor in front of the camera and for a red carpet, they also want to be on trend, look great, look modern and contemporary. It doesn't matter what age they are. So you have to kind of implement that into their own look, obviously where they feel comfortable. But obviously the good thing is I spent years doing backstage work on all the shows, London, New York, Paris, and Milan. So I had a lot of experience with working out different styles. And I have to say it really helps because you can have 10 ways to do a ponytail, the same ponytail, 10 different techniques. And each technique, although very subtle, can make a huge difference with the finished look. So I often find that whenever I see anything on the on the runway, it really I always kind of like want to see or want to watch. If I haven't been on the show, I'll always kind of go online and see what they were doing, and I'm like, they did that a little bit differently. And then when I do a client, I'll always encourage them to give it a try or try something new. But obviously, depending on what they're wearing and depending on what they're going to.
Absolutely. So, we've talked about runways and editorials and campaigns. So let's move on to personal looks. And specifically personal beauty looks. So I think, so many wardrobe stylists have talked about kind of their golden rules of personal style and what to wear and what not to wear and what colors work and what doesn't, whatever. But for those who may want to be developing their own beauty look, when it comes to their hair and their makeup, what kind of advice would you guys give anybody who's kind of, seeking advice in that? Colleen, we can start with you.
Start with me. Oh, okay. Yay. Actually, for me, it's like everybody has. I always think, what inspires you? Like I'm always been known as the little rock and roll chick. I still always have the rock and roll hair and all that. And if when you develop your own style, everybody's different, right? There's people that are very minimal, but you still can do a little lippy or highlight. But also, I love I have a friend who's corporate, but she has a rock and roll style. And I said, be rock and roll on your Zoom, be who you are. So that's what I like to tap in with people or give them advice as far as a personal style. You have to be true to self, because if you try to force something that you're not, it's going to show. So it's okay. If you don't like a lot of makeup, it's okay. You can do it like a little lash or, you know, a fun little liner and tinted moisturizer. I always love a good flush cheek because that always makes everybody look amazing. And you can, you know, and what's so nice is the brands, you know, you can go from the drugstore, like the Maybelline, even Flower Beauty. I shot with Drew. I did her Warrior Princess mascara campaign, and that's like with some of the best mascara. So you don't have to, and especially now people are more focused on you know, budgets and things like that. And the drugstore brands have come a really long way. So that's why I say, don't be afraid that you don't have to buy Tom Ford, even though it's amazing. You can find different alternatives and still look incredible. But the borderline is you've got to be true to yourself, you know, and whatever inspires you is art or a certain musician or a time frame. If you want to be a 60s boho chick, then be a 60s boho. If you want to be a little glam rock, you can dial that down and have a little David Bowie in you and not look too crazy. And beauty about New York is you can do whatever you want and nobody, yeah, it's great, right? So that's my advice. I always be true to yourself.
Wear whatever they want in New York and
nobody cares. No.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah, exactly.
Laura, what's your take?
For me, I feel like so many people with their hair are always trying to make it something it's not. So you have a wave in your hair and you're, you know, most people are like, oh, I have to blow dry it and then I have to straighten it and I have to do all these things. But I think what's also been really nice about quarantine is people embracing their natural kind of texture and working with it, letting it be what it is. But at the end of the day, I always encourage people to make sure they feel good. Obviously, give yourself a transition if you're letting your hair just kind of be what it is. But because you have to get used to seeing yourself like that. That's just, you know, anything about changing any look. But at the end of the day, everybody wants to look cool. So I think it's cooler the less you try, honestly. I mean, and if you think about brands in general, any brand, they sell well if they're cool. Everything sells if it's cool. So you're going to feel really good if you feel like my hair looks cool, you know, my makeup looks cool. So something like that, I think is the advice I give people is don't be scared of what you normally, you know, how it dries, what it looks like. Not every hair day is going to be a good day, but you also don't have to overdo it with the heat on your hair. Like Sheridan was saying, you don't have to overdo any of these things, especially when you're not really doing that much, just so you feel good when you walk by the mirror. You should feel good no matter what, like being confident in yourself and how, because most people, your hair is what actually matches you, you know, like Kayla, like your hair matches you. It was made for you. So trying to fight it and be something different, and when in the end, it looks dope like that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Such a
That's
good
my take
for everybody, truly. Daniel, I'd love to know what you think on this.
Well, I lost my hair a long time ago, so obviously that wasn't working out for me. But it's funny, Laura's right. Like, I can't even imagine having hair now. So what's been awesome about quarantine is that it's really leveled out a lot in terms of people experimenting with different looks, people trying out new things, you know, learning online. It's kind of given people a time to reinvent themselves. So again, going back to what feels good for you, play around. You know, you have so much time now, like play around, see what works, experiment. I know a lot of friends who didn't really wear makeup, who are wearing more makeup now because they've had the time to learn. Granted, we're all wearing masks when we're going out, but you have the opportunity to completely reinvent yourself right now because you can take time for yourself.
Absolutely. Sheridan, I have to hear what you have to say about this.
Daniel's absolutely right. I've spent more time in gowns and wigs and makeup during quarantine than I have in my whole life. I've learned how to do makeup and have to say love it, absolutely love it. So I think it's a really good time to experiment. Just like Colleen has a look, she has the rock chick, I guess I'd be the go-go boy, have table, will dance. But I think whatever it takes to make the money at the moment. But what it comes down to, what Laura's saying, I think it is important for having a signature look. I love signature looks. That iconic kind of Jennifer Aniston never really changes. I think there's so much value in having something that is timeless, that perfect cut, that just right hair color. You can experiment and have fun and change, and that's great. But for me, I love a classic. I love an iconic hairstyle that you can absolutely pin on one person, and that will get referenced, and it comes back around and back around. And every job I ever have, the same things, the Bardot, the Audrey Hepburn, they keep coming in every single time because they are iconic. So I think there's something to be said about having a look that really, really suits you. But of course, you can experiment, and I recommend wigs for that. Don't go out and buy some CVS hair color. Love you, CVS, but don't buy the hair color just to try it out.
Wigs are such a great way to play around with your look and switch up your hair without doing any damage. Like if you damage a wig, you can.
Wigs are great. Wigs are great. Yeah. Color, cut. You can try any style you want, and you can live in it. Even you have all the time now. Live in it for a day, live in it for a week. Really get a vibe for it. Take pictures, ask friends, and then you'll know if you really want to change something up.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's such a good point too. So I want to come back to you again, Sheridan, and also Colleen. I think a lot of people, as you guys were all mentioning, it's a great time to experiment. And there may be some people who, you know, feel like they're kind of in a beauty rut right now because they don't really know what to be doing. So both from the hair and the makeup side, what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe trying to find something new? They're kind of bored with their look, maybe their signature look, they want to change that now. What advice would you give to those people?
Sheridan, you want to start or I'll start? Why don't you start, Sheridan?
I would just thanks, Colleen. Just push me under that bus. Straight under the bus. Love you, Colleen.
Love you too.
I mean, what I would say is, at the moment, I feel like I wouldn't make any drastic decisions. It's a very a fragile time for everybody. So I'd say just be gentle on yourself. Don't put any pressure on yourself. There's no pressure to do anything or change anything at the moment. There's too much going on in the world to stress yourself out about the way you look as well. So I'd say just, if anything, pamper yourself, paint your nails, do your facials, you know, get your hair done where it's safe. Just really take it easy on yourself. And as things start to come back to normal a little bit, I would then thinking about, if then you still feel the same, then I'd think about doing some kind of change. But at the moment, just take it easy and look after yourselves.
That's great advice.
Sorry, my dog is in the background giving commentary. He woke up. Sorry about that. I have a Rottweiler Shepherd, and of course he's not like a little
in the closet.
dog. He's got a
Stick it in
very
the closet.
big bark. For me, I mean, with makeup, it goes back to like, look at things that inspire you, because if you've been in a rut, you know, we are at home, and if it gives, like, and then like go back to what Daniel was saying, we do have time to experiment. Don't be afraid to step out of the box. I think it's really important, and makeup does. I mean, I think for all of us, you know, we were at home and it was literally, you know, sweats and what are we going to do? And then, but even for me, I would, you know, actually properly do my hair and put my makeup on. It made me feel better. So I think for anybody that wants to change up their look, have fun. You know, you're at home, and, you know, you can take pictures and show your friends, or put them on Instagram, or maybe not put them on Instagram because you don't want, you know, a lot of haters out there, but, you know, but have fun, and don't be afraid of makeup, because makeup does, you know, there's so many amazing palettes. You can buy one really fun palette that offers you, you know, I love the art library from MAC. They have 3 palettes that are absolutely fantastic, and they kind of give you a great range. One's nude model, one's called, what is it called? Editorial or some editorials or whatever. Get those and have fun. Makeup should be fun, but you can also just do little nuances of putting gold on your eyelid and putting mascara and having clean skin and putting a little bit of lippy on, and you're good to go. And it can just brighten your day. I always, you know, just have fun. Makeup should be fun, you know?
Totally. And
especially in this time and age where everybody is at home and they're not feeling good. Makeup really can, and skin, just, you know, I don't know, just have fun. Just try it out. And if you don't like it, you can always go back to what you had, right?
Totally. And that's a great segue for the final question I have. And this is just a reminder, guys, we're going to move into the Q&A soon. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat. We're going to get to them in just a second. So for the last question, I want to talk about personal insecurities. We all have them. We're all dealing with them constantly. And it's a journey to loving yourself completely. So Daniel and Laura, obviously both of you know that makeup and beauty and hair plays such a role in helping people to cope with any insecurities that they may have. So how do you kind of, help your clients deal with those challenges that they have with hair and makeup, while, obviously being sensitive to their needs, but also encouraging them to maybe try something new or to embrace the thing that they may not love just yet?
That's a really great question, because I feel like the perception of makeup can be interpreted in so many different ways. People either look at it as something that can cover up rather than enhance. So I think it kind of depends on, like I have this one client who didn't like the way her lips were. So when she wore red lipstick, she felt like it was armor, and she felt like she can just go out, do her day with just a red lip. And I always thought that was really fascinating, because usually red pulls a lot of attention, but for her, that withdrew the attention.
Right.
So much of it is like innate, and what something can do for you and how it kind of gives you that empowerment. So I feel like, for women, I ask them, like, what is the one thing that you love about your look or your face, whether it's eyes or cheek or lip. And from there, you can kind of build out, if they love their eyes, or they're like, I love my eyelashes, I can't leave the house without mascara. Try colored mascara. Do you know what I mean? Like, just don't stray away from it. You can amplify it, but it's always going back to that signature thing. And I think people with insecurities about their look, find something that you love and just really blow it up.
I love that. Laura, what do you have to say in terms of hair? Because hair is such a big thing for people. I didn't know what my natural texture looked like until maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I had no clue. And
Isn't that crazy?
So crazy.
Yeah, so many people spend their whole life fighting whatever is naturally happening, or, oh, my hair is straight, but I don't have that much of it, I hate it, or it's curly, I want it straight. It's always something. But I think, yeah, insecurities with hair can be really tough, especially if you do your color the wrong way, or how particular people get, especially brunettes, can be like, do you see that red? Do you see that red? Like, oh my God. No, I don't want to fine. Everyone's so funny about their color and what that can do for how you feel in general, because then that affects, how your skin tone looks. Do I look washed out? Do I look tired? Do I look these things? So, and then, you have to go to makeup, and then you overdo it there. So I do think a lot of your stuff can start with your hair. But I think, I think finding something kind of like what Sheridan said earlier, finding what you like and what looks really good on you and what suits you. And if you really want to change something, you can. But if you know your face shape can't do bangs and you're feeling insecure, don't do anything crazy. Don't do anything that's not going to work for you. But yeah, people just need to feel your best. And I think your hair, sometimes you need, if it's looking flat, that's going to make you feel pretty lame. So just, there's plenty of products that's something simple, just to get a little lift here. Watch a couple YouTube tutorials and try the simple, easy things. And that can just make you feel so much better, because a tiny bit of effort, when you just and then you'll get 5 extra compliments and you'll be like, oh yeah, I'm killing it. Yes. And that changes everything. It's just like one little compliment, doesn't even matter who it comes from. Could be like your bodega guy. You're like, yeah, great. And that will change everything for you. So just the tiny little things, even if it's like, oh, how do you get a little more, lift at the root? That changes your face shape if you have more lift up here. Doing something where it's more down and open here changes how your face looks. And then you don't feel like you have to try as hard on makeup or your clothes. So just the little things that make you feel so much better.
Absolutely. Thank you guys both so much for that. All right, now we're going to move into the Q&A. So the first question that we have is, how do you transition to a signature beauty style? So example, so bold, graphic, colorful liner or red lip without looking like a pinup cosplayer or baby at a dance recital? That is such a hilarious question. So feel free, whichever makes sense.
That's amazing. I think if you red lip is so fascinating because for someone who's never worn it, who wants to wear it, I always say put the red lip on and build from that. So, you know, get your skin where you need it to get, where you want it to be, put the red lip on, and then you can go in and be like, okay, let me see if I need to strengthen out my cheek, whether it's a contour or color, or let me try an eye, because there's some people that can do a really full-on eye and full-on lip. So always start with that feature and then build around it, because that way you can kind of be like, okay, I don't like so much on the eye, I can just use it, you know, just a light wash, or maybe add some gloss on there to give it that texture so it has that juxtaposition of a matte lip. But yeah, build out from the thing that you want to blow up.
Colleen, do you have anything to add to that question?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Daniel. I love Us Beauty, Unframe the Beauty. They're these Japanese eyeliners that just came out, and they come in a plethora of color, and they're really fun to dress up an eye, but not, you can take they have everything from turquoise, and then you can just drop that in and play around with that, and you don't have to go full on, you know, like Daniel said, you can just throw some extra mascara on and keep, I always think once the skin looks really great, always take care of your skin. Your skin is number one. You know, you can get a great primer that has, you know, illuminators. I mean, I have to say Touch is like one of my favorite. I love the Dewy Skin Cream, where you can just have really gorgeous glowing skin. You can play your eye up, and, you know, even just drop, one of my favorite techniques is also you just take your finger and pat the color onto your lip. And that, what that does is it just gives you this nice soft tone on your lip, but it's not full on, it's not, but it still gives you, it makes a statement, so you can build the color, and you're good. You know, you can get like the Glossier, the cheek and lip, and I think Maybelline makes one where you can just actually just do it all in one thing, and you're good to go, and you can just build it, you know.
Absolutely. So we just had another question come in, and this is going to be our last question since we're running out of time already, believe it or not. Time in 2020 is going by so fast, it's so slow. But anyways, this person wants to know best advice to transition from just having the passion to having a full-blown career. So how do you land, or what's your journey to landing your first major client? Because I know it's a little bit different for everyone.
Wow, that's a loaded question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
hands up.
I would say for me personally, but I think it's extremely hard to get into the industry, and there are so many amazing artists, and it's a lot of work, a lot of hard work, and a lot of training. I feel like me personally, the best route that I would recommend is to assist someone, is to find out, pick up a Vogue magazine, pick up Harper's Bazaar, see who's doing the covers, which artist is doing the covers for these very prestigious editorial magazines. They're the people that you want to be working under if you can. They're either based in Los Angeles or London or New York or Paris. You find out if it's feasible and possible. You find out whichever artist you can that is either trained under them or is actually them themselves, and contact their agency, ask to assist. You have to obviously get used to working for free in the beginning, but what you will learn is absolutely just the most amazing techniques. And I feel like for me personally, that's really helped me with my career. And I feel like learning how to do hair or makeup is great, but the skill between being a good artist and a great artist is knowing how to correct mistakes. And that's what a lot of people fall short on. They can do a look, but if the client doesn't like it and they want it changed and they have no time, they are then unable to change it. And then you're left trying to talk your way out of it, which is not good. So the skill to being a great artist is knowing how to change something very quickly if they don't like it, or if something goes wrong. And that comes from experience, and that comes from working with these great artists, because often during a fashion show, something can change 10 minutes before the show is about to start. You have to be able to change it. And you can only get that kind of speed and experience from physically doing it, either working on shows, assisting these great artists, or from assisting them directly on private jobs. But that's how I started my career, and I found that just being the best ever, because it means you never really get stuck. You have issues, but you can always fix it, and that's really the key.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I when I was Dick's assistant, I learned so much, and I always told people to assist, because the wealth that you get, especially shows, teach you speed. That's one thing I've always have been known for, is that I can execute very quickly, because Dick was a very particular about speed. He said, you know, if you own a look, if you want, you can do it quickly, and that's evolved. And that, and assisting also, they refer you, like he referred me to some clients that till this day I have to pinch myself, but there was that trust factor, and that's what I did with my assistants. So you learn, because it also puts you in front of people that most you would never get in front of. You get in front of the icons, the biggest people from, like Sheridan was saying, Vogue and whatnot, and you learn protocol, and you learn manners, and you learn how to be above everybody else, because it's what I always say, it's like being an apprentice to a Renaissance artist, right? You worked underneath them, and you learn, and then you grow from that. And that's how I was referred, and one of my clients that I still work with was referred from him, and over the years we just kept working together. So, and then he did the shows, but I would do the lookbooks and the still the smaller things, but clients and all that. So yeah, I think it's really, really important. And people don't look at it the way they used to. They think that because of the social media that there can be an Insta star, but you learn so much backstage and assisting. It's one of the best experiences. It's free school, sort of, kind of. You get paid a little bit, but you have
to do the work at the end of the day. And I think that's the perfect note to end this fantastic panel on. So first of all, thank you so much to all of our panelists. All of the insight and advice and everything you shared is completely invaluable. Thank you guys so much. For everybody tuning in, thank you for spending your time with us today. You will have a 5-minute break, so feel free to do whatever you want for the next session. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. Everyone take care and stay safe.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
seeing you all.
Bye.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye.
Be safe.
Thanks,
Bye.
Taylor.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.